The Caitlin Clark injury situation is officially a mess because not only is there not more clarity, there's more confusion about what her timeline could be. And that's coming on the heels of it seeming to be pretty clear when Clark would return to the court, or about when she would return to the court. It was said on the ESPN broadcast on August 12th that Stephanie White hoped Clark would be back in practice this week. Open portion of practice, Clark is not seen. And Stephanie White afterwards said it's status quo until Clark is back at practice.
Look, it really seems like Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever front office just pulled off what might be the worst cover-up in WNBA history. They tried to lie about Caitlin Clark's injury right there in plain sight, hoping no one would catch on. But here's the thing, fans absolutely noticed, and it's not just a hunch. They've got receipts, detailed timelines, and actual footage that completely unravels the official story. What they tried to paint as a simple workout mishap now looks a lot like a full-blown deception. And when you start misleading the fans who buy tickets, watch games, and spend their hard-earned money on merch, you're not just telling a bad story, you're potentially heading straight into a serious investigation for deceptive consumer practices.
It's getting crazy. It's getting spooky real fast. Very fast. I told y'all, people have had enough. All of y'all in the Indiana Fever organization who have been lying about this girl injury, not being transparent, and all these things that the fans are feeling, the fans are speaking back. They do not appreciate it. They feel scammed. They feel lied.
Fans hate being lied to, especially when they feel used. This isn't just some small PR slip-up, you know? It's a total credibility meltdown. Stephanie White went on live TV smiling for the cameras and gave this perfectly neat little script about Caitlin Clark's injury timeline. But here's the real problem. The dates just don't add up. And when your dates are off, fans are gonna call you out big time. It's 2025, guys. Receipts live forever online, and people aren't just gonna blindly agree with everything anymore. So do you still trust the Fever when it comes to reporting injuries? Tell us what you think in the comments.
Urge DOJ and FTC to investigate WNBA's misleading practices. Wow. So we are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose, because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing Caitlin is going to win.
And let's just rewind for a second. Caitlin Clark first hurt her groin back in mid-July, right? It happened after she took that pretty reckless knee from JC Sheldon. Back then, they called it day-to-day, with talk of ramping up practices for a hopeful return around late August. Sounds pretty normal, actually. But then, as we got closer to that return date, suddenly, almost magically, a new injury popped up. The official story? Clark supposedly got hurt during a workout on August 7th. It was all very neat, very tidy, and super PR friendly, except for one huge problem. Fans have footage from that exact day showing Clark just casually strolling through Phoenix. She looked totally smooth, completely unbothered, and absolutely not injured. So yeah, something definitely smells fishy here.
Well, what changed? Right? I know there's never been a direct timeline, but all the signs seem to point in the direction of Clark returning soon. Even Natasha Howard saying, "See you soon, CC." Now it's like, wait and see. And there's further information coming out that Clark suffered a bit of an ankle injury in the midst of her recovery process. Did that hinder her return? One reporter saying yes, another reporter is saying no. Bottom line is, we need to know a little bit more. We don't need Caitlin Clark's in-depth medical report, but it's fair for fans to wonder if the Fever and the league's biggest star is going to return to the floor this season, or what the chances are. And she's been out of action for 5 weeks, so it's not as if some patience hasn't been expressed.
Instead of just admitting that the timeline made zero sense, White and her PR crew actually doubled down. And that's honestly where this whole thing went from just embarrassing to completely insulting. Listen, Fever reporters, the ones who should be giving us the facts, went on air, ahem, as they retold Caitlyn's unlucky injury story. It wasn't nervous laughter either, it was actual chuckles, like the league's most important player being sidelined with some kind of punchline. Just think about that for a second. The face of women's basketball gets injured, the ratings tank without her, and the media covering it acts like it's a comedy sketch. Fans weren't just confused at that point, they were absolutely furious.
The Indiana Fever's got $1 billion entity on their team. $1 billion damn dollars. And they're a bunch of clowns, a bunch of bozos. You guys look completely incompetent and unprofessional. The way this has been handled, oh, it's a joke. It's a joke. Look, and look, they can't say anything about conspiracy theories. You're complicit in creating them because you won't be open and you won't be honest.
Honestly, this is exactly why the Fever's credibility is just in an absolute freefall right now. Look, spinning narratives, sure, teams do that all the time, but flat out lying to your own fan base and then grinning while you do it. That's not just dishonest, that's straight up disrespectful. It's basically the franchise saying, hey, we think you're dumb enough to buy this. But here's a newsflash for them. Fans aren't dumb, and social media receipts literally don't expire. People are piecing this whole thing together in real time, and honestly, the more they look, the uglier it just gets.
You got this video right here that a lot of you have already seen. I just saw it in the last couple of days of Caitlyn getting stepped on by a coach right there on the left.
Stepped on by the coach, and I think she's going to be all right based upon the grin on her face. But
the left foot, the one that's got the issue, she got stepped on. And today, I'm not even going to say Indiana Fever fans. Caitlin Clark fans are crashing out at a different level. And I don't blame them. I don't.
And here's the kicker. It feels like they're trying to bury the real incident. Fans definitely haven't forgotten that infamous game where assistant coach Breon January literally stepped on Caitlin Clark's foot. That moment didn't just vanish, did it? It just got buried under this whole workout injury fairy tale. So which is it? Did Caitlyn suffer some freak accident in a private gym, or was she actually injured by the very staff that's supposed to protect her? Because if it's the latter, that's not just bad luck. That's straight up negligence. And negligence tied to misleading public statements? That's exactly the kind of mess that screams for an investigation. Not just from the league, but from sponsors and consumer watchdogs who simply don't tolerate deception. Meanwhile, Clark herself is totally caught in the middle, forced into the Fever's PR spin cycle. Every single time she talks about her recovery, it's the same robotic lines: working hard, feeling good, just unlucky. Fans know Clark. That's not her voice. That's a script that sounds like it was written by a Fever intern trying to stop ticket refunds. The timing is just too neat, the messaging too controlled, and the authenticity is completely missing.
This isn't just disappointing, it's deceptive. Fans invested their hard-earned money in tickets, streaming packages, and merchandise under the belief that they were being given honest information. Instead, it appears coordinated efforts were made between the league and team communications to present a facade of hopeful updates, masking the true status of a.
And what's more, here's the real insult that fans just can't ignore. Caitlin Clark isn't a rookie anymore. She's in her second year. She's basically the most valuable player to the league's entire survival, and she's earned every single ounce of that spotlight by selling out arenas coast to coast. Yet, the Fever are treating her like some pawn they can just shuffle around with lies. If this happened in the NBA, right? Say a coach hurt LeBron James or Steph Curry and then lied about it, there would be massive investigations, firings, and non-stop ESPN coverage. But in the WNBA, silence. Just reporters smirking along like they're unpaid interns for the team. The Fever's credibility isn't just dented, it's absolutely shredded, and Stephanie White is smack in the center of it all. This isn't just bad optics, guys. It might actually cross the line into fraud, selling tickets and hyping broadcasts, all built around Clark, while knowingly misleading fans about her actual condition. That is a deceptive consumer practice. That's the kind of thing that gets lawyers involved, that makes sponsors totally panic, and that could definitely lead to investigations the Fever absolutely do not want.
Goes on to say fans felt excited when they purchased tickets, believing they'll watch Caitlin Clark shine on the court. However, that excitement turned to disappointment as misleading injuries kept fueling false hopes that she would play the WNBA. And hold up, damn, is they finna get a for line? Is they finna get a for line to the fans? Oh my God. Hold up, the WNBA and Indiana Fever Indiana Fever have repeatedly engaged in what seems to be a strategic ploy to drive ticket sale and merchandise sales by suggesting that Caitlin Clark's return was on the horizon. Holy-ish right now, bro. Oh my God, it's about to get red.
And get this, here's the spiciest theory that's making the rounds right now. What if this wasn't just incompetence? What if it was actually intentional? Think about it for a second. Clark came into the league like a total tidal wave, shattering records and bringing in fans who had never even watched the WNBA before. Almost immediately, the narrative shifted. She's too skinny, she needs to bulk up, she's not ready. So what happens next? She's pushed into rapid muscle gain. Her body clearly breaks down, and suddenly her second year is completely clouded by injuries. That's not just coincidence, is it? That sounds a lot like mismanagement, and when you connect all those dots, every single arrow points right back to Stephanie White and her staff.
I feel like they were lying about her injury as far as like the severity of it. I think it's a really bad injury. I think when they rushed her back that one time, I think she hurt it even more and it pushed the timeline back.
Trying to come back and come back quickly. She needs to make sure that she's 100%. Her competitor wants to play. We're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness is the most important thing.
As bad as it might sound, I think it might be like a season-ending level type of injury, and they're hoping to get in the playoffs and they can somehow get her during the...
Fans are already saying that Clark should just leave the Fever's medical staff behind and go back to the Iowa doctors she can actually trust. And honestly, who can blame them? If the front office is lying about when she got hurt, then what else are they lying about? Are they downplaying the severity of her injury? Are they planning to rush her back early just to cash in on ticket sales? These aren't some wild conspiracy theories, guys. These are totally logical questions when the franchise refuses to give any straight answers. The silence is deafening, and it just screams cover up. Stephanie White really thought she could step up to the podium, smile for the cameras, and spin this workout injury story like fans were clueless. But the more she repeats it, the more cracks show, right? And every time she doubles down, she just torches her own credibility and drags the Fever even deeper into scandal. Instead of protecting Caitlin Clark, White has effectively turned her into the centerpiece of a potential investigation.
And the craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. And then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court. And just yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her being out.
And Fever fans?
Fans are just done with it. They've watched Clark take hard fouls, eat elbows, get ignored by refs, and now they're watching her be completely mishandled by her own organization. Just imagine being the most hyped women's basketball player in decades, selling out every arena, breaking TV records, and your reward is being lied about. When you're hurt, that's not just mismanagement, that's malpractice. And if the Fever keeps this up, they won't just regret it, they'll get investigated for it. And here's why this scandal stretches far beyond Indiana. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player, she is the WNBA right now. She's the engine powering everything: ticket sales, ratings, sponsorships, even mainstream media coverage. Her presence sells out arenas coast to coast, her highlights drive national broadcasts, and her name keeps corporations writing checks. Remove Caitlin from that equation, and the ripple effects are immediate. Attendance dips, ratings collapse, and sponsors start looking for the exit. That's why Stephanie White's little cover-up isn't just bad PR, it edges dangerously close to consumer fraud. Think about it. If fans are buying tickets assuming Clark might play when the Fever already knows she won't, that's false advertising. That's not speculation, guys. That's exactly the kind of deceptive practice that sparks legal investigation.
This has been all over the place, and I get it to a certain extent. The fans, the media does not need to know every little thing that's going on with Caitlin Clark's injuries, especially a star player like that. We will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But the reporting of her timeline in general, there has been no rhyme or reason to what has been shared about it.
And let's be honest, the timing here just couldn't look any shadier. Right as Clark was really heating up, pulling the Fever out of irrelevance and igniting league-wide buzz, suddenly she's sidelined under this vague, totally unbelievable timeline. What happened? The Fever's momentum stalls, the team spirals, and all that hype just vanishes. Whether it was intentional or not, that feels like sabotage. And instead of just keeping quiet, White went on camera and spun this fake story, which just made the backlash like 10 times worse. WNBA, seriously, y'all have to figure this out.
Figure it out. The people have had enough. I'm going to let you know exactly what I'm talking about. This thing is picking up steam. And it's a bad look. It's a bad look. It's a bad look, all because you guys refuse to be transparent about Caitlin Clark injuries and injuries around the league. But this
isn't just about one bad lie, guys. It's part of a much larger pattern. Since Clark first came into the league, she's been disrespected at every single turn. You've got officials swallowing whistles while she gets hacked. Commentators nitpicking her like no other star, jealous opponents targeting her with cheap shots, and now her own coach adds deception to that pile. To fans, it almost looks coordinated, like the league is genuinely terrified of her stardom and actually wants to dim her light. But here's the irony: every single cheap shot, every whistle swallowed, and every single lie only makes her fan base louder, more loyal, and even more determined to protect her.
Look, anybody who saw this could have maybe thought something was up. Breanne January stepping on Caitlin Clark here. August 9th. Left ankle. That's where the bone bruise supposedly happened. On August 7th, which is what is being shared now. And, you know, some of these things you hear rumblings about, and you don't know exactly what's going on.
Still, let's not sugarcoat the real risk here. Caitlin Clark is human, right? She's not a machine. Every mishandled injury, every rushed return, every shady media spin, that cuts directly into her career longevity. That's the nightmare scenario we're talking about here. The WNBA's biggest star getting broken down before she even hits her prime, all because her team couldn't be honest or careful. And if that actually happens, the backlash isn't just gonna be harsh, it'll be absolutely historic. Stephanie White won't just face fan anger, she'll wear the blame for damaging the very player who's carrying this entire league.
Fans, y'all, we might have a case here. We might have a case to sue not only the Indiana Fever, but the WNBA for misleading us, having us thinking Caitlin Clark was going to come back, because we all remember when Stephanie White was on ESPN, she stated Caitlin Clark was on her way to come back and practice and get ready to make a return of a lifetime to the Indiana Fever. Oh, yeah, she said that her win around the 12th. Well, judging off your sources, if she got hurt around the 7th, you knew prior to you going to ESPN that Caitlin Clark wasn't coming back when you said she was going to come back. You're lying. You're lying and you're misleading, and it's looking real spooky. And I'm happy the fans is standing up.
And look, White has already guaranteed herself a ton of regret. By lying, she didn't actually cover up an injury. She just lit a fuse. Now fans are dissecting her every single word, piling up receipts, and exposing all the contradiction. Reporters outside Indiana are totally circling, and once national outlets really dig in, this story is going to explode. And when that happens, the Fever won't just be dealing with angry fans. They'll be facing sponsors backing out, media scrutiny they absolutely can't control, and potentially even regulators poking around. Because, let's be blunt, this isn't just sloppy optics, it could be illegal. If you're selling a product, like tickets, broadcasts, merchandise, all on the back of a superstar, while knowingly misrepresenting her availability, that's consumer fraud 101. Watchdog groups and regulators absolutely don't play around with that kind of stuff. Once the words fraud or false advertising hit the headlines, the Fever could be staring down fines, lawsuits, and sponsors demanding answers. And the tragic irony here, Caitlin Clark knows. She's too sharp not to. She knows the dates don't add up. She knows those talking points sound scripted, but she's trapped, forced to smile and nod because calling out her own coach mid-season would just get her branded as difficult. She's being silenced in her own story, and honestly, that's the most heartbreaking part of all this.
All right? People have been trying to stay invested because the GOAT was supposed to be coming back. I mean, seriously. So let's just take a little of the temperature in the room. I'm not happy with the Fever front office and their fan communications. I have tickets I paid for months ago to go to next Tuesday's game. I have airline tickets. I have hotel, restaurant reservations made.
So where does this whole thing even go from here? Really, there are only two paths. Either the Fever admit they completely botched this, come clean, and finally treat Clark like the franchise cornerstone she truly is, or, and this is probably more likely, they keep lying. And then fans just keep stacking those receipts until eventually the entire thing detonates. And when it does, Stephanie White won't just regret lying. She'll deeply regret underestimating the sheer power of Clark's fan base, the massive reach of the media, and the very real possibility of an investigation that could absolutely shake the WNBA to its core. Because if this deception actually sticks, the Fever aren't just staring at angry tweets. They're looking at a nightmare scenario, full-blown investigations into deceptive consumer practices. If fans paid for tickets expecting Clark to play when the team already knew she wouldn't, that's solid grounds for lawsuits. We're talking class actions, big fines, and even sponsors pulling their money until the Fever and the league actually clean this up. And make no mistake, sponsors will not tolerate this. They invest millions in Clark's star power, not in a team spinning fairy tales about her health. If they even smell fraud, they'll walk, and they'll take their money right with them.
I am devastated that Sophie Cunningham is now out, and I would like to know if Caitlin Clark will be playing. It's not too much to ask. The Fever need to be more transparent. Absolutely. Absolutely. I shared that. A lot of fans are in this exact situation. Come on. If Caitlin Clark is gone for the year, it's time to show a pair and admit it. Admit it. I got to tell you guys, it's time to go to Fever social media and began demanding, is Caitlin Clark coming back this year or not?
And don't even think for a second that the league office can hide from this. Once national media starts really hammering this story, Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA brass will have absolutely no choice but to act. That could mean independent medical reviews, much stricter injury reporting, or even a full league probe into how the Fever handled Clark's whole situation. The second you hear league investigation, you know the scandal has completely gone from just bad PR to full-blown crisis management. At the very heart of all this is trust. Trust between fans and the Fever, trust between sponsors and the league, and trust between players and the front office. Right now, every single lie about Clark's health is just eroding that fragile trust. Once it's gone, good luck trying to rebuild it.
The pattern of communication between league officials and team medical reports raised concerns of coordinated misrepresentation rather than independent, factual reporting. The coordinated messages suggest an underlying intent to protect revenue streams at the expense of fan loyalty and trust. Economic harm has been inflicted on countless fans who, based on false pretenses, spent money they have not otherwise parted with. They might not have otherwise parted with if they had known Caitlin.
The bottom line here is simple. Caitlin Clark is the face of women's basketball. She's the brightest star the WNBA has ever had, hands down, and she absolutely deserves honesty, protection, and respect. These lies surrounding her injury aren't just sloppy, guys. They're genuinely dangerous. They threaten her career, they threaten the Fever's entire reputation, and they threaten the league's future. Fans should be demanding answers. Sponsors should be demanding accountability. In the media, they need to push harder because Clark deserves so much better than this. And her fans, they won't stop until she gets it. So what do you think? Is this just a sloppy cover-up? Or are we actually staring at a full-blown investigation just waiting to explode? Do you still trust the Fever when it comes to injury reporting? Let us know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out.